Hi everyone! Today, big step, we're going to install windows and sliding glass doors in a tunnel, but before all that, let's look at the first step to do, which is to create the tunnel. In this video, we'll install everything on a shipping container house, but actually, everything I'm going to explain applies to almost all types of homes. So make sure to watch this video until the end. Let's begin. I'm Julian and this is a container house. I'm 26, have no do-it-yourself experience, but challenge myself to build an affordable, eco-friendly house. I'm also trying to develop my resilience and live in harmony with nature. I'm filming all of this. I'm putting it on this channel, so subscribe if you want to follow the adventure. To start, we're going to build the tunnel where we'll install our window or our tunnel bay window. And we're going to do that with 18mm oriented strand board because it's strong enough, it's easy to cut, and it used to be cheap before the wood crisis. For the sliding glass and front doors, I chose to replace the oriented strand board with 27x200 MMS class 2 treated fir formwork boards for outdoor use. Even though there will be a rain barrier on top later, so that will still protect the board. It's sturdier than oriented strand board, but it's more expensive, and above all, it's less straight, and it's only 20 centimeters deep. Whereas with my oriented strand board, I can cut it to whatever depth I want. When I come to place my oriented strand board tunnel on my container, it will rest on the inner corrugation. So it will be set 4 centimeters inside the house, and it will stick out 20 centimeters because I'll have 20 centimeters of insulation. So theoretically, I would need to make boards that are 24 centimeters deep, which I can do with formwork boards. Being off by 4 centimeters isn't a big deal, it still works. But oriented strand board is more flexible, it's easier to install. As for the width and height, I'm going to take the measurements of my window frame, the overall dimensions, and I'm going to do a little calculation. My window frame is 125.5 centimeters high. I need to leave at least 7 millimeters of clearance at the top and bottom. So my oriented strand board tunnel will need to be 126.9 centimeters high. My window is 125 centimeters wide. I need to leave at least 7 millimeters of clearance on the left and right. I also need to take into account the width of the vertical oriented strand board panels that will be placed between the horizontal oriented strand board panels. So I need to add 18 millimeters to the left and right, so my oriented strand board tunnel will need to be 130 centimeters wide. I've prepared my miter saw and my circular saw. And it's done. Now that we have our 4 boards, I'm going to assemble my tunnel by screwing it together. You shouldn't screw into the oriented strand board edge, so I'll pre-drill holes to prevent splitting. These screws aren't really there to reinforce the frame, they're just there to hold it together while I lift it and put it in my hole. So there you go, it's not a big deal, that's enough. Or you can use brackets if you really want it to be much stronger, but you'll see that brackets make things more complicated later on. All right, here we go. Next, since we're using a container house, I'm going to have to cut my wall to create the opening and place my oriented strand board tunnel inside. For that, I'm going to use my angle grinder. Go check out the video we made on the subject. Definitely don't buy a plasma torch. You'll see the video and understand after making these openings, we've weakened the container. So we're going to weld 4x4 steel tubes that are 3 millimeters thick. So, well, to reinforce our opening, we'll need to put them in the container's corrugations, inside or outside. I decided to put them on the outside of the container for, well, aesthetic reasons. I put them here to show you an example. There you go. Except you'll very quickly understand where the problem is. I can't precisely choose the exact spot down to the centimeter for my reinforcement tubes. It's either in the wave here or in the wave there. That's it. And so here, when I measure between my 2 tubes Well, I'm at 131.8 centimeters. But my oriented strand board frame is 130 centimeters. Solution, I'm going to take a piece of oriented strand board. Well, actually, I'm going to take a scrap of oriented strand board and use it as a shim. I'm going to make a second layer for my oriented strand board frame. That way, it'll be 131.8 millimeters, not just 130, and will fit perfectly between my two tubes. So I need to cut a hole that's 130.5 centimeters high by 131.8 centimeters wide. Okay, here we took exact measurements down to the millimeter, but let me give you a little tip. It's better to cut a little wider and fill in the gap with expanding foam if needed, rather than cutting too small. And then struggling to fit the oriented strand board tunnel in there. So, here we go. We take our laser level, an essential tool. It only costs 50 euros. You absolutely need it. We're going to trace our outline and then we'll cut all of this out. Let's go. The bottom of a window is usually 90 centimeters. Since I'll have 12 centimeters of insulation, I've set my laser level for that. I'm at 105, that's great. My window will be 93 centimeters from the floor. Perfect, there you go. Well, these discs are great, they cut well, but I just broke one, so be careful and make sure to wear safety glasses. A small step for man, a giant leap for the container. All right, now we're going to sand the four corners a little bit to smooth them out. And then we'll put our oriented strand board frame in, hoping it fits perfectly. Before installing the oriented strand board tunnel, I'll first check if my cut is straight. In my opinion, I'm not, but that's normal. I'll place a scrap-oriented strand board piece and check underneath to see where my sheet metal touches or sits too high. I'll mark spots with a black pen and sand them again so my oriented strand board presses evenly on the sheet metal. You can see that here it's too much, here it's too much, here it touches. You see, here it touches, but here it doesn't touch. So I need to sand a bit more here and over there in the corner and then and here. Now that I've made my hole and checked here to make sure I'm level, I'm going to weld my reinforcement tubes. And then you'll see that when you cut the container, well, the sheet metal is damaged because these are used containers, so it tends to warp. Here, it's pretty straight. I'm lucky, but what I'm going to do anyway is use plate clamps to press the steel tube against the container and straighten it out to get a nice straight hole. I've put in my first steel tube and I'm checking that it's level, that it's nice and straight vertically. Next, I'll use 2 or 3 clamps to secure it and repeat on the other side of the window. I make sure there's exactly 131.8 centimeters between them. Or just a little bit more, so I can fit my oriented strand board tunnel in later. Once everything is good, I'm sure it's in the right place and it's straight, and my opening will be all ready and I can place my oriented strand board tunnel in it. Here, The sheet metal wasn't very warped, so 2 clamps are enough to press, my sheet metal against my metal bar. But sometimes when the sheet metal is really warped, really damaged, it's better to use 3, 4, or 5 clamps. But here you can see the sheet metal is really well pressed, so we'll leave it like that and put the second one. All right, we've put on plenty of clamps. Our tube is pressed in place. I'll be able to weld all of this. If you want to learn how to weld, we've also made a video on the subject, so go check it out. All right, let's get started, and then we can finally put in the window frame. All right, we just welded these 2 tubes, and now we're going to remove all the clamps to see if it holds, to see if I'm a good welder or not. Let's go. Well, listen, I see this as an absolute success. It's fine, I've welded the thing, it's fine. Now that we have our hole, which is finally finished and reinforced, we're going to put in our USB tunnel, hoping it fits. Normally we allowed for some margin, but actually we're going to struggle. All right, here we go. Okay, at least the top fits this time. Yeah, still the top right there, nothing a little tap with a hammer can't fix. Where is it hitting? Maybe it's hitting at the top. Is it at the top that... We managed to get it in with a mallet. We allowed some leeway, but it still didn't fit well. So now we're going to align it with the inner undulation and wedge it. What I'll do temporarily to wedge it is put window shims on the corners and sides to hold it in place. And then we'll screw through the oriented strand board into the metal tubes to hold the frame in place. Now that my oriented strand board tunnel is firmly in place, despite the cutting margins we had allowed for. Well, I'm going to have to screw it to my reinforcement tubes. And for that, I'm going to use self-drilling screws for steel, 45 millimeters long, 5.5 in diameter. I'll pre-drill my oriented strand board at 5.5 and my steel tube at 4.5. The goal is for my screw to go easily through the oriented strand board, anchor itself in the steel, and pull the oriented strand board tight against the tube. I'm going to put 3 on the right, 3 on the left, and that'll do it. My frame is screwed into my reinforcement tubes. Well, you see, it's already pretty solid, but it's safe. I'll add 2 brackets below and 2 above, then screw them into the oriented strand board. And weld onto the container to add a bit more strength to the horizontal parts. My oriented strand board tunnel is done, securely screwed, welded, and the brackets are solid. Actually, I could have used steel tubes instead of brackets. That would have also allowed me to straighten the sheet metal at the top and bottom. But I preferred brackets because they were 10 centimeters compared to 4 for a steel tube. So I thought they would, well, support the weight better on the horizontal oriented strand board, Now what we have to do is install a rain barrier to protect my oriented strand board, and we're going to staple this rain barrier. So I already cut a 5-meter long roll to go all the way around the window and 30 centimeters thick so that it's on the oriented strand board and I can bring it back a little underneath. Then the rain barrier for my cladding, well, the one that will be between my cladding and my insulation, will go on top like this, and that's it. But before stapling this big roll, I'm going to staple small reinforcements in each corner to, well, further waterproof my oriented strand board. There you go, let's get started. Quick side note, I treated myself. I bought myself an electric stapler because I'm going to have a lot of rain barriers to staple for the windows, but also later on all the insulation throughout the house. So it's worth investing in a good tool. And now we're going to put our rain barrier roll all the way around, and we'll start at the top because that's where water infiltrates the least. Let's go. It's also easier with two. So Baptiste, ladies and gentlemen. And now I'm going to cut the corners so I can fold down and staple the rest of the rain barrier. There we go. There we go. Finally, after 4 or 5 hours of work, we've installed our oriented strand board tunnel, which will now be ready to receive our tunnel-mounted window. The procedure is nearly the same for installing a sliding glass door with only minor differences. I'm happy with what we've done. It's solid, square, level, and honestly really good. However, for the installation of the week, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Because there was already a lot of information in this video. And I like to make you wait a little. So, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next video. And to get you a little excited, here are some teaser images. And above all, before you leave me, please support this channel on Tipeee. It's very important. It allows us to pay Theo, it allows us to pay Baptiste. It makes it possible for these videos to be of such high quality. Thank you for watching this video until the end. See you in 2 weeks. This was Julien. Bye.